What's going on, my friends? It's Ulysses from Snapkeep Videos, and today I want to talk to you about some vampire movies. Now, being October and being Halloween, obviously I have to do something for you guys. It's my favorite holiday of the year, and I want to talk about vampires today. So I made this list of 6 vampire movies that don't have the traditional Dracula was the first vampire, with the exception of one. There is one on this list that does have Dracula, but if it wasn't Dracula, if it was any other vampire, Joe Schmo, it would be perfect. Now, I get it, Dracula sells movies, puts butts in the seat, so I think that's why they went with it, and that's, I guess you can call it as the honorable mention, because that's going to be the first one I talk about. Now, I'm going to try and list these movies in an order that I think are from like less original to most original, and I really want to know what you guys think. Please let me know below if this list is similar to your list, if you agree with how I put them. I would love to hear from you guys. So, with all that out of the way, let's get started. So first off, I want to talk to you about the Dracula movie I mentioned, and that's Dracula 2000. It stars Gerard Butler. It came out December 22nd of the year in the title, 2000, and it was directed by Patrick Lussier, I think this is how you say his name. And he would later on go to direct the My Bloody Valentine remake and Terminator Genesis. And so he's done movies since Dracula 2000, but I think this movie doesn't get enough credit. I think it's one of those movies where when you watch it, it kind of feels like a sci-fi movie, and for the most part, yeah, it does have that kind of feel to it. It's one of those movies where if you watch it with no commercials, you feel like they cut the commercials out. Commercials were supposed to be a part of it, but overall, it's an okay movie. It's not the best vampire movie out there, but I do love the Dracula origin. I love that they did not go with Vlad the Impaler. Instead, they kind of added some Christianity into it and tied it into, like, you know, realistic fiction and stuff like that, and with you know, actual like fiction that, or actual history that happened. So basically, instead of it being Vlad the Impaler, Judas Iscariot betrayed Jesus. Well, the way that they did it was they took it the word Judas, after he betrayed Jesus, he was paid 30 pieces of silver. Well, that explains why vampires are harmful. The silver's harmful to them, because Judas was paid 30 pieces of silver. Now, the 30 doesn't really have much to do with it, but the silver does. Now, as far as the sunlight goes, in the movie, Judas hung himself after he realized that he betrayed Jesus, and he felt so bad about it. Well, right before he died, God cut the rope and basically damned him to live forever and to never be free of the sin of betraying Jesus Christ. So by living forever, he also made it to where he would always remember what he did. And in turn, Judas turned to God and said, now that you cursed me with this, I'm going to drink the blood of your children and make them in my image. Which, yes, that's kind of sacrilegious. Actually, that's very sacrilegious, but I thought it was really cool. I thought it was a very unique way of explaining why Dracula is this monster, and why he has this vengeance against, you know, Jesus, and why he hates the crucifixes, and why he can't go to churches and all that, because he's ashamed. Instead of being afraid, making Dracula ashamed, I thought was awesome, because he's Dracula. He's super powerful. And that's why I had to put it on this list. I know I tried, as I said, I tried to stick to non-Dracula vampire movies, but this one was so unique and so awesome that I had to put it on the list. Next, we have a movie that I saw recently. It didn't come out all that long ago, but I didn't watch it when it came out. I waited for it to be on video, and I think I got it at like a garage sale or something for a couple bucks, and that's Dark Shadows. The Tim Burton movie based off of the TV show from the 60s. Came out May 11th of 2012, and it, as most of you know, if it's a Tim Burton movie, it's going to have Johnny Depp and Helena Bonham Carter. So it was pretty cool. It's about Barnabas Collins, just like for those of you who know about the show. I myself have never seen the show, but the movie plot I thought was okay. I did like that it, again, was a completely different retelling of how the vampire creature was made. Now, it doesn't explicitly say in the movie that Dracula doesn't exist, so I'm not going to go ahead and say he doesn't. He might, but the movie never covers Dracula. As far as I know, watching the movie, I took it as the witch, who's played by Ava Green. Her name is Angelique. She basically was super upset that Barnabas broke up with her and couldn't take it, so she cursed him and basically was like, if I can't have you, nobody can. So made him a vampire and stuck him in this coffin and buried him under the ground for 200 years. So he escapes, and when he comes out, I guess he expects, you know, to find some sort of familiarity with like his life, and it turns out that it's 200 years later. She is still alive, but she's obviously gone through so many different lifestyles, and she is like, she says she's her own ancestor, and everyone thinks that she's actually like reincarnations of someone in her life from way back in the day, but it's also it's obviously always been her. And that's basically how the vampire started in that movie. I don't want to ruin it for you, for those of you who haven't seen it. I really liked it, so go out there and check that one out. But anyway, that's why it made it on this list. Next movie I want to talk about is one of my favorite vampire movies of all time, and that's John Carpenter's Vampires. It came out in 1998, and basically it's one of those vampire movies that I think flew under the radar. I really enjoyed it for many reasons. I love James Woods. I love his energy. I love his character in this movie. This was the first time I ever saw James Woods in anything. I saw this movie when I was really young, way too young to watch these kind of movies, but my uncle, God rest his soul, he was badass. He was all into it. That's why I'm into horror movies and all that. So this movie basically tells the story of a Catholic priest that the church was under the impression that he became possessed by demons, and they decided to perform this exorcism, this elaborate procedure where they used a special cross called the Berzier cross, and it was supposed to exorcise him of whatever demons he had. Well, what ended up happening was it was cut short for some reason, and it wasn't completed, but it still had an effect on him, and that effect was that it turned him into this creature that was forced to walk the night and drink the blood of the living, a vampire. Well, the movie, I don't want to give away the plot, even though it's not much more than that, has no touch of Dracula. They confirm it that his name is Jan Valek. He is the first vampire, the first of his kind, and all vampires are connected to him in some fashion or another. So clearly that movie was a no-brainer for this list. You guys need to go watch it. Like I said, it's one of my favorites. I watch it all the time. I watch it at least once a year, and you guys need to check it out. The next movie on this list might surprise some of you, especially those that haven't read the book it's based off of, and that was I Am Legend. It's starring Will Smith, and it was directed by a man by the name of Francis Lawrence, and he went on to direct movies such as Constantine and all of the Hunger Games that weren't the originals, all the sequels, and he did a good job. I mean, the movie was fun. A lot of people said it wasn't like the book. I haven't read the book. I know I'm slacking, but I watched all these movies, but I haven't read the books of those that are based off of them. And I like this movie. It has Will Smith, Alice Braga, and I think his name is Dash Mihawk, I think is how you say it. He plays the main alpha vampire creature. And the reason why I say creature is because these vampires don't look like traditional vampire monsters. They're more like humanoids. They're all bald, men and women. They're gray, they're all very skinny. You see the ribs on most of them. And they don't have fangs, they don't have colored eyes, they run. And they're more like zombies than vampires. Like they chase you, but they can't go out in the sunlight because it burns their skin. Well, the book, I believe, calls them vampires. The movie never calls them vampires. They just call them these patients that were affected. And the way it happened was scientists were trying to create a cure for cancer, and they used this like genetically engineered strain of the measles, and basically they were going to use that to cure cancer, but what ended up happening was it killed 90% of the population on Earth. It was like 5 point some odd billion people, and then left the remaining 10%, 9.8% or so of them became these creatures. So it's post-apocalyptic, it's vampires, monsters, survival, and that's why I like it. Nothing to do with, you know, the traditional vampire story, which is why I made it on this list. Number 2, we have a movie, the only movie on this list that is not an original. It is actually a sequel, and that is Underworld Evolution. Now, I am a big fan of the Underworld franchise. I love the story, I love the tone, the look, the aesthetic. The werewolves are great. Vampires look menacing and elegant at the same time, and they're awesome. But one thing I really liked about this franchise is how everything came about. It's a little bit of a poem. Basically, one man who was immortal gave birth to 3 sons, 2 of which were twins, and the way he was an immortal, or the way he became an immortal, is there was a plague that, like, he was a warlord, and there was a plague that washed over his village, killed everyone but him. His body somehow adapted the plague and morphed it into something that allowed him to live on forever and never die of old age. Well, he later on in life married a woman and fathered 3 kids. Well, 2 of them the twin boys, were playing in the woods or something one day, and they were each bitten. One was bitten by a bat, and the other one was bitten by a wolf. Well, obviously, as you may guess, one of them became a werewolf, the other one became a vampire. Well, the fact that there is no correlation with Dracula, obviously, I thought was cool. I saw this movie I saw all of them in theaters, I think, and I really liked that the first movie never touched on where they came from. It treats the vampires as if they've existed forever. The human population doesn't know about them per se, but they've existed forever, and that was really cool. So the second movie is the one that touches on this backstory, and I think there's 5 movies in the franchise or something crazy like that. And the second one was really fun. A lot of the same actors came back for the second one. There was way more action in the second one. But yeah, that's why I put it on the list. I like how they integrate the werewolf into it, and it just makes it to where it's more than just a vampire movie. The last movie on my list, number 1, is a movie I just finished watching actually about an hour ago because I hadn't seen it in a while and I wanted to be fresh for this video. It's a movie that most people haven't seen, including some of my close friends. I have loaned this movie out to, I could think of 3 of them. They haven't even heard of it. They know some of the actors in it, but they've never even heard of the movie. That movie is called The Forsaken. Released in 2001, it was directed by J.S. Cordone, and he later went on to direct 2 movies. I think they were both remakes, The Stepfather and Prom Night. What holds this movie special to me is the origin, the unique aspect of it. These knights, there were 9 knights out of however many hundreds of thousands that there were, survived this blizzard that pretty much annihilated their entire army. And they obviously didn't want to die, so this fallen angel appears dressed all in black and always appears at the end of a big battle to collect souls. 8 of them were willing to make a pact with this fallen angel, this demon, and the other one said no.
Now the story goes that 8 of these French knights made a pact with the demon for eternal life. To seal the deal, they killed and drank the blood of the 9th one who had refused. But when the sun came up, they were so ashamed of what they had done, they couldn't stand the sight of each other. So they went and hid in caves until nightfall. They then went their separate ways, spread out all across the world alone, forever cursed with the desire for human blood and unable to ever again walk in daylight. The curse gradually became known as a disease, and as it spread, people started calling them the Forsaken.
I thought that was really cool because it's not just one vampire, it's 8 of them. And they all spread out across the world, each went to a different continent essentially, and they all started their own strain of the vampire virus. That's not the same, they're all each individual strains. The movie talks about how if you're bitten by one, the only way to get rid of the virus is to kill the one that you're connected to. I thought that was really cool. They can go anywhere with this. They can make a sequel if they want to and have it take place in Japan, and it doesn't have to be linked to the first one at all. I really like this movie. It did horrible. I think Rotten Tomatoes gave it like a 7%. So this is not a movie that I'm telling you guys to go out of your way to buy. If you see it on Amazon Prime or something like that, $3, it's worth $3 in my opinion. And that pretty much covers it. Thank you guys for sticking around to the end of the video. I also want to take the time to tell you guys about 2 YouTubers I follow. I'm part of a Facebook group called Killer Flicks. It's all about horror movies. It's a great group of people. 2 YouTubers that use that page, I think they started the page if I'm not mistaken. One of them his name is Cody Leach, and that's his channel. I'm going to link it in the description down below. And the other man is Lee, and his channel is Drumdums. Him and Cody are really good friends, and I think you guys will enjoy their content. Anyway, thanks again for you guys for watching and stopping by. Don't forget to like, share, and comment on this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Y'all take it easy.